Hello everybody, I thought I'd make you another quick video here to show you, kind of what I do here for Fox 4 News. In the last video, we kind of covered the sort of automated side of things and broadcasting an actual news broadcast, a news show, and what's all involved in that, which, like I said, is heavily automated. So we program everything kind of in, and then we play it out, and we have limited ability to sort of manipulate sources and that kind of thing. It's literally, the show, and then when the show's over, that's it. So I thought I would share with you sort of another aspect of what I do here, because I'm what's called a multi-skilled technician, which means I can jump in and do any job, in the station here. And so if they want me to jump in and run the studio cameras, I could do that. They want me to mix audio, I could do that, direct, whatever. But this aspect I wanted to share with you is what's called a TOC operator, and it's something else that I do, and I do a lot of it. This is like a non-automated aspect, a non-automated job that I do in the station, and I thought I would kind of, share a little bit about, what's involved with that and give you a little explainer video on, the tasks, that I do in that job. Now, the TOC operator is a position. TOC stands for Traffic Operations Center or Technical Operations Center. Every place, they refer to it differently, but what it is basically all of the signals that come in and out of the building, in and out of the TV station, come across my desk here, and I handle all of those signals. So it's everything from remotes out in the field to feeds from New York, feeds from LA. We're also sending feeds out. I control all of the content, everything that sort of happens, signal-wise, video-wise, within the building. And there is no automation in this. You basically simply have to react, as it comes and as it happens. And so you've got people calling you, you've got emails coming in, you've got all these different things. And I'll give you a quick little, sort of tour of what that is and what's involved with it. So anyway, this is chapter 2 of the video that I made earlier. This one I'm calling What is a TOC Operator? So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, as you can see here, our TOC workstation is laid out in a horseshoe type configuration, which means that I am completely surrounded by equipment and I operate a lot of things. Obviously, the centerpiece are the computers, and there are literally 6 of them here that I operate at the same time. As you can see here, there's keyboard, another keyboard, and then some of them actually we can activate KVM switches to operate even other computers. The centerpiece, of course, is this monitor wall here that we can route all of our sources to. And these are sources from all over the world, or they could be local sources, but I have full control over, what I route and to where. And as you can see, a lot of them are dark here today because it's a slow news day, which will give me the opportunity to kind of show you around as to what a TOC operator does. So I think what I'll do is I'll start all the way on one end here, and we'll work our way around. First piece of equipment is we have a router here that gives us the ability to ingest analog sources. So let's say we have a Betacam tape or a High 8 tape, or a camcorder that's a FireWire or whatever. This router gives us the ability to route sources from other parts of the building where people can plug in, and we can record those sources and make them into digital files. And that's what this router gives me the ability to do. Moving over here to the next piece of equipment, this is what's called a tower cam control device. So basically, I can select up multiple cameras here, whichever ones I want, from all over the city of Dallas, or actually Dallas and Fort Worth, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and I can control those cameras. I can zoom in, I can pan, I can tilt, I can iris them, and here, I'll show you. Here, let's say I select camera 4 here, which is the top of the Bank of America building here. And I don't know if you can see it there. As I move this joystick, see, I can pan these cameras around. Okay, now the cool thing about this thing is that it has not only an optical zoom, but a digital zoom. So I can actually capture stuff from far, far away And I mean, like literally from the top of the Bank of America building in downtown Dallas, I can get a close-up, shot of jets taking off at Love Field. Or let's say there's a fire, a house fire way off in some neighborhood. Because Dallas is kind of flat, I can zoom in using these cameras and get us shots for our live news broadcast. All right, moving on here next is this is what are called our satellite control, and this comprises 2 monitors that sort of I operate, and this gives us the ability here to lock on and tune in satellites. And there's a whole bunch of them up floating around, orbiting the Earth. And this software gives me the ability to find a specific one, lock onto it, and track that satellite. So let's say I need to, record a live news press conference from Dallas, or from like Washington, D.C. or whatever, or a sporting event or whatever. This gives us the ability to lock on and control multiple satellites, okay? The next equipment over, this is called our Troll system, and this is microwave. So this, back in the day, we would send news vans out and they would put like a big giant mast with a dish on it, and we would tune in to those vans using this system. But we don't really run the big vans out that much anymore. They still use some of them on some of the shows, but this is really primary. Its primary use is to lock onto our helicopter. So when our helicopter launches and it's up in the air, basically what I'll do is I'll tune the frequency that the helicopter is on. He'll give me a bearing, I'll lock onto that signal, and we have what's called a nav track. And the nav track will follow him around the sky and keep locked onto the helicopter, so we always have a shot. Now, as you can see here, we have multiple microwave sites. Our primary one is called Cedar Hill, and the reason we use that one is because it's the highest point in Dallas, so we can literally, from our tower, pretty much reach any van or any helicopter anywhere in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Now, there are 2 of these systems. They're duplicitous, so I can actually, utilize either one or switch back and forth between the 2. And like when the chopper calls in, he'll call in on this. It's a 2-way radio here, see? I mean, it looks like a phone, but you can key it. And you can basically, it's like a police radio or whatever. You could talk to the chopper. He tells you where his location is and, what he's, the location he's going to. As you can see now, because I keyed that, it's transmitting Morse code back that it is, in fact, connected and receiving, a signal. Okay, and all of the computers are controlled by, like I said, all of these keyboards. Okay, so I can access all this equipment. I have not one, but I have 2 phones. So on a normal busy day, both of these phones will be ringing off the hook, and I'll be getting calls from, not only our local reporters out in the field, but New York or Los Angeles or wherever. Can you send me a tape feed, whatever? I mean, it's on a normal news day, this place is hopping. Okay, so anyway, so we'll move on to the next computer here. Okay, this is what's called our Sony streaming system. Like I explained, we used to use news vans that would go out, and we would use microwave to lock onto locations. Well, not anymore. The systems are so complex now that they can utilize cellular data from like cell phones. So they carry like a backpack out in the field, and they're able to lock onto those or transmit back to the station. Instead of having a news van, they have these cellular sites. Now this one is by Sony, and it's actually built into the cameras. So each one of these little squares here is one of our photographers with a camera, and they can come up, and then I can actually grab that signal, and I can route it down here to one of our remotes, like a remote 25, and then the switcher can call that source up, and they could broadcast live. We have another system. Our primary system is called Live View, or Live View Matrix. Oh, I'm sorry, here, Live View Central. There's so many of them here. This one here is, again, our reporters, and they carry these Live View backpacks that can literally transmit from anywhere in the world that has cellular, like your cell phone service, and they can broadcast pictures and do a live signal. We can establish a live connection with any of our reporters using this system. This has replaced pretty much microwave, because obviously it's more convenient. You don't need a big van. They can walk into a park and broadcast. Okay, piggybacking this system is what's called the Matrix. Now this thing is pretty cool. Back in the day when you were a O&O news broadcast station, you pretty much only had your sources to work with, and you would covered just pretty much the local news. Well, things are so advanced now that this system allows us interconnectivity with any television station across the country in the Fox network. So, nowadays on O&O, you're not just segregated to what you do. We contribute content to the network, and the network contributes content to us. So we're all like one big network. And I can actually call up here any of the sources. See, this column is all network feeds. And this gets me like any of the Fox Sports, Fox New York. Like here we have the Governor Greg Abbott. He's got his own live view. Like tower cams, national network stuff. I can actually grab any of these and, move them into one of our remotes so that we have access to them. This column here is all the television stations all over the country. Okay, so you have everybody here from like KTTV in Los Angeles to KRIV, which is, I believe, Austin, Houston, South Carolina, you name it. Any Fox station that's broadcasting or doing a remote, I can actually grab that remote and move it over here to any of our internal remotes so that we can then broadcast that signal. Okay, and it obviously goes the other way too. They can grab any of our, signals and report it. And this is all done through a computer, all right? On the very end here, we have what's called the pool, okay? So there are 2 channels dedicated to pool, to sharing content with other television stations in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So let's say ABC, CBS, NBC, we can share content with them, they can share content with us. And we use these pool feeds, in essence, to transmit, a lot of sports or breaking news. Let's say they're on the scene, we can actually share content. So we actually work with our competitors to a degree, okay? Next one over here is what's called the Bit Central system. And these are like little recorders, right? When I route a source into the station, I can record on any of these. As you see, there's 12 media encoders or 12 lanes. So each one of these things here is a recorder. And I can, record, obviously hours and hours and hours. Like, right now, if there's football on, like, well, here's a good example. We're recording this baseball game. And this thing will record for probably 4 hours. There's another room in the TV station that has hard drives that can record mass quantities of content. So I have literally 12 lanes here, to record on. And we record everything on these, from our air checks to our, our reporters out in the field, to sporting events, to like here, there's a 9/11 thing going on here in New York, so that's the, the New York feed. Somebody was recording that earlier, and pretty much, I'm responsible to make sure that all of those things are recorded so that we can utilize those sources in our news broadcast. Okay, down here, this is a scheduling system. So let's say I'm really busy and I don't have time to set up a recording. I could set it up in advance, right? So the cool thing about this is, you see, this gives me access to any of the 12 encoders, and I can set up a recording to automatically start recording a source. So I utilize these when we're getting slammed with, sporting events. Like you can see here, I've got the Cowboys-Buccaneers game set to go, and it's going to set up and record itself, so I don't have to remember to record it at that specific time. We also have, here's our air checks. We do a clean feed and a what they call a dirty feed, which is what's actually broadcast. And then the clean feed has no graphics or anything on it, so if they ever need to pull a story or edit from it, so I've got these auto-programmed to go for our shows for today, okay? Over here, these are just like little tabs that I use because, you can't type fast enough. So like all of our reporters, I basically set up the time, date, live recording. I pre-type all that so I could just copy and paste these into these encoders here and start a recording really quick, because it gets fast and furious and you got a lot of sources going on. You don't have time to, type everything from scratch. So I sort of preset all the things that I do kind of daily. All right, the next computer over here is, I have like basically a map of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So when a news story is breaking, they typically will give us the location of that news story. See, I can zoom in or zoom out, figure out where that story is if we're using the microwave, point directly in the proper direction. And when you're using microwaves in particular, you got to make sure that the microwaves don't cross their paths, because if they do, they cancel out. You don't have a picture. So there's a little logistical planning, you know, utilizing the map to know where your resources are, what reporters you can reach, where they're at. All right. Another little thing going on here, let's click another tab here. This is called our Aja recorder. This records a backup of our broadcast of all of our shows. And I pretty much set this on a schedule, but like, you know, today when we don't have a show, it'll trip and I got to stop it. Or we have a show that starts late, I got to start it late and set up that recording. So this is another video ingest recorder, okay? Next up here is I have what's called Slack. And the Slack system here lets me communicate with Fox in New York to tell us what's going on with many of the sources, because in addition to our local sources, Fox is also putting up, see on this monitor down there, got sources coming in from all over the world, and they can control them. Like you see Buckingham Palace there on remote 41, got the Capitol building, the White House, New York, you know, they got reporters, sports games, so they can actually feed content to us, you know, via their own system. And this Slack system tells me, you know, what those sources are. So I, you know, the control room asks, hey, where is remote 47? I'm like, well, that's Buckingham Palace. So I know, and I can inform them so that they can either use it on the air, you know, or select it or whatever. In addition to that, we also have in this computer, by the way, I'm monitoring all this stuff simultaneously in real time. We have the iNews, okay? So these are for the automated production system. This tells us the stories. They call it stacking the show. What stories we're going to do and in what order. So before each news broadcast, I have to monitor this and find out what remotes are being used in the show and be sure I have them tuned. I'm recording them and they're set to the specific remotes that they need to select them on the switcher. So, you know, during a live news broadcast, this stuff will all get populated with actual stories, and you'll see here there's times. So I just follow along here on the actual time as to where we are in the news broadcast to ensure that I'm providing the resources that the control room needs for the show. Okay, now, complicating matters even worse here, we have, you know, like routing, okay? So like, for instance, over here, we have what are called LTN lines, which are digital fiber lines that come into our station from New York. So we can receive, you know, from the mothership in New York, we can receive programming or remotes or whatever, or we can feed stuff to them. And this router gives me the ability to receive signals into the building and signals that go out of the building. So literally every single source that comes in and out of this building, I'm the person here that manipulates that and makes sure that everybody gets the content that they want. Now, in addition to that, as if I'm not doing enough, we also have an editing system here. Okay, this is called Edius. Okay, so this is like, you know, it's for editing video, like Adobe Premiere or whatever. So sometimes, you know, I will get like a, what do you call it? Like a, well, here, let's just bring it up. I'll show you. Here, let me call it up here. Okay, so these are all the assets of the reporters recording out in the field for their news stories for later. I can actually grab any one of those clips and bring them into my little editing software here and say, let's stack 2 or 3 videos together that I want to feed. Let's say New York wants to see these 3 stories and they're going to use it to show what's going on in Dallas. I can actually import video into this editing system, do a quick little edit job, and then export it out, play it out from my editing system to my router here, which then feeds, you know, the New York bureau or the LA bureau or any other bureau in real time. So in addition to the live view system, which is an IP-based system, this is a fiber-based system. So it's a lot of stuff, okay? And of course, you know, we still have to write stuff down. Like I have a little cheat sheet here with all my satellite coordinates, you know, routing sources. It's impossible to remember everything, so I keep this little book to remember, you know, where and to who I can route stuff. Okay? Now, in addition to all of that, as if that weren't enough, I also am on the email chain for every single department. So I'll get emails here where they will send me information of stuff that I need to record. Like, as you can see here, they're telling me, you know, at 7 o'clock I need to record the Dallas Cowboys game on SAT 23. And then at 10:30 after the game, we have a reporter out there who's going to do a live stand-up with probably the coach of the Cowboys or whatever, you know. So I'm also, you know, sent that. So I have to watch these emails because stuff comes in. Like, see, here's one about master control that came in, where they want me to route these various LUDX sources for these various football games. So if there's ever we go down, we lose, you know, our terrestrial signal for whatever, they'll have a digital signal available that I can route to them. Okay. And then on this side, last but not least, is a what's called an off-air monitor. This gives me the ability to tune in, and obviously when our show is going on, monitor for QA, which is called quality assurance, to ensure that everything looks good and sounds good on the air. I can tune in, you know, any of our competitors, you know, ABC, NBC, CBS in the Dallas area, or like when we're not doing a show like I am now, I have it tuned to our network, which is the Fox News channel. So I monitor the Fox News channel to know, you know, what's going on in, you know, in the world, basically. So this will usually give me a preview of what we're going to do, you know, in our, you know, in our show. Okay, so that's pretty much how it goes. That's the system in a nutshell here. Let me minimize all this. So this is what's called the TOC Workstation. Okay, and this job is not automated. It's kind of like juggling 5 or 6, 7 chainsaws at the same time. You basically have to pay attention. You have to monitor all of these sources, and you have to be available by phone here to be able to route sources wherever, whenever you know you need to. So this is just, you know, one of the positions here, one of the jobs that I do here for Fox, and I just thought I would share a little bit of it with you so you kind of see what it is.